Welcome to the Chronically Awesome podcast with me, Katie Rose, recording my thoughts and realizations about the mind, the body, and all things woo-woo, looking at life through the lens of spirituality, and sharing things I believe should be taught to everyone so we can begin to heal the next generations, healing traumas, transcending the ego, and living an empowered, soul-led life of pure awesomeness. Hello. So this podcast comes from my weekend. And I have been feeling so many things, and I wanted to kind of put a post out there on Instagram and do this and do that. And I was like, there's kind of so much I want to say and share and put out there that I think it's better to put it into a podcast than to sit there trying to type up what I'm kind of feeling. Because I am a person that once I start talking, it just kind of comes out. So this is my way of expressing that. And I have so many sort of achievements that I want to share because this is my awesome. What I've been able to do this weekend is the most awesomeness that I have ever been able to do. This is something that I didn't think I could ever do. It's just honestly blown my mind so much in what I have been able to achieve. So naturally you want to share that with people because it's exciting. And again, I'm still always working on using my voice and sharing things with the world and being able to get that out there because I believe, as you know, that you have your own awesome. And it's about allowing yourself to appreciate your awesomeness and take that time to go, do you know what? I did this. And, a year ago, maybe I wouldn't have thought I could do that. And just really celebrating yourself. And also, no matter how small that celebration is, it's like, I remember a time when my celebrations were I made myself a cup of tea. Because I was able to get to the kettle, because I was able to walk back with my cup of tea and not have to drag my ass across the floor, because that was me at one point. I did have to crawl. I didn't have a wheelchair back then when my legs first started getting tremors and muscle spasms. I honestly thought they were just going to go away and then they didn't. So obviously, eventually I had a wheelchair, but up until that point, I was dragging my ass around the house, pulling myself upstairs. My muscles and my arms were so good back then. Definitely lost that. But those were the things that I took. I was like, I have strong upper body strength. Like those were my positives. Those are what I took for my pure awesomeness back then. But let me share with you what I have achieved over this weekend and my realizations as well from the weekend. And the first thing is I took myself. I went somewhere by myself. That wasn't like just to town or just here or there. I drove 4 hours. 4 hours. I actually think it was 4.5 in the end with my stops and stuff, but 4 hours to get to the retreat in the Peak District. And it was a massive thing for me to do. I've never driven that far. I've driven, I think 2 hours, maybe like years and years ago before I got really poorly. So that in itself was a massive thing. Then I went so I stayed at a farm. I went up a day earlier than I was supposed to because the weather was coming in as absolutely horrendous. And I was like, this is my first solo drive. I am not doing it in shit weather. So I ended up booking a little place on a farm and it was so beautiful, amazing. Like it was so perfect. And again, I've never stayed anywhere on my own. I've never done that either. So that was another achievement. And like, this is just day one. And it gets better. I then went for a walk. So I have OS maps on my phone, so you can find every footpath that there is around the place. So this farm was like this beautiful place. And I was like, I want to explore. Initially, I was like, I've done a 4-hour drive. Right. Okay. I'm going to lie down and watch a film. And I was sitting there like, I can't, I'm too antsy. I need to get out. Like, it's beautiful out there. I need to get out there. So I went for a walk and I just followed my OS maps and there was so many beautiful views. I found a railway track. I was just like in such a place of awe. And on the way back, I sat under a tree. I just sat there and I wanted to stay there for hours, but it was starting to get dark and I was in the middle of nowhere. So I was like, okay, let's go back now. And then I did chill out and actually watch a film after that. And it was just an amazing achievement just to do that, just that on its own, getting there, staying somewhere on my own. And then the next day, I headed out to the retreat. I headed out to a cafe first because I was meeting up with my wifey, Sally Moo, so that we could then go down to the place together. And even going to a cafe and sitting there on my own, another achievement. Like, I've been starting to do that in the last year locally, but I've never done it somewhere that I don't know. And it was just like one thing after another. And I was just like, oh my God, I'm so fucking awesome. Look at me. How my legs are working. I have no anxiety. I have no pain. I'm just like, ooh. And that is like what you have to celebrate. Like, if you don't do these things all the time, it's incredible. You notice how awesome you are. You do. But when you do them all the time, you don't remember how awesome you are because it's just something you do every day. So my invitation for you today would be to list everything that you are grateful for, that you do every day, easily and effortlessly, without even thinking about it. Like, I had to think about these things to do them. I had to psych myself up. I had to visualize myself doing it to really be able to let go of the fear, to be able to walk into that cafe. And it was just this moment of absolute pride. I have to say, I had a fucking hot chocolate on the way up when I stopped, and it was shit. And then I went into this cafe and I had a hot chocolate and it was shit. I had to add sugar into it to make it so I could drink it. So I was really disappointed. So I feel like I have been let down by the hot chocolate society. Normally I love a hot chocolate, but I was like, what the fuck is this shit? It was so like, oh, I don't even know. It was just like, it's just bland. I'm like, Anyway, I digress. I've gone off track. I love it. So then me and Sally went for a walk in the piss and rain because that's what we do. Because again, we are fucking awesome. And it just seemed rude not to, in a place that is so beautiful. And to be fair, the place was called Waterfall. So we were like, there has to be a waterfall here somewhere. So we went on the lookout for a waterfall, came across a really cute church, and we did go in because it says on the door, like, feel free to come in and have a look around. So we did. We went and looked in every room that was there. And it was just such a beautiful place just to stop as well from the rain and just sit there and just be. And it was just, I just love to do little things like that just make my soul feel like it's connected to something so much bigger. And then we found someone and we were like, could you tell us where the waterfall is? There's no waterfall in Waterfall, okay? So apparently the water goes underground. So that was disappointing because I love a waterfall, like truly deeply love a waterfall. Although the sky was pretty much a bloody waterfall anyway, so we should have just sat and looked at the bloody sky. And then, so this is day one. I wanted like day two, and for everyone else it was their day one to get to the retreat. And I'm just like, I saw Sally, I was like, I've done this and I've done this, and I've already spoken to her about 5 times before this because I was like, I'm so awesome. And I just need to share that because of its energy and it's moving through me, and I have to acknowledge that and accept that and show it love, because otherwise you're not accepting this gratitude and this pure, again, awesomeness that is flowing through you constantly. And when you're ignoring it, you are ignoring the light that is around you, the connection, the spiritual part of yourself. So this is why I always encourage people to embrace their awesome, to acknowledge that awesome, and to carry that through their day whenever they can. And some days are harder. Absolutely. So in those moments, it's like recall those moments that you were telling yourself you were awesome, those achievements that you were able to accomplish. So this retreat was, so I was actually working at the retreat. I don't know if I've actually said that. I was working at the retreat. The whole point of me going to this retreat is because I was holding the sound bath. And this was such a massive goal of mine, and I manifested this shit as well. So I can't even remember when it was a long time ago, and I wanted to go to a retreat, and I've always wanted to hold a sound bath at a retreat, but that wasn't that wasn't what I was manifesting. I was actually just manifesting to be able to go to a retreat. And then Sally had messaged, because she worked for this lady, Sarah Tobin, and she's tapping for mums. And I had no idea who this lady was. I was like, okay. And she's like, oh, her sound lady can't come. Would you like to do it? And I was just like, yes, please. Like, it was just such a perfect opportunity. And it was like one of my biggest dreams and goals to be able to do that. So I was well up for it. I didn't even know where it was. I didn't know who this lady was. I was just like, yes, please. And then I found out it was like 4 hours away, and I was like, oh my God, I've got to drive all the way there by myself with all my sound instruments. And I was like, oh, but I knew it straight away. It resonated. I knew in my heart that this was something that I had to do. I had to take this opportunity. And then I said to Sally, I've been manifesting, like I've been asking for the universe to present a retreat to me, to be able to put me in a path so I could be able to go to one, because I've never been to one. I've always wanted to, and I just never, like, I was supposed to go before, and then COVID, and there was just a few things. So I was like, oh, and I was just in such awe and amazement of what can happen when you truly open yourself up to these possibilities, to asking for what you want and what you desire. But then you have to be open to take them, because I could easily have said, no, that's a bit too far. And come up with, I could easily have come up with like 100 excuses, because I'm amazing at doing that. But I didn't, because I've been asking for it. I was open to receiving it. So I took it with both hands, and I didn't doubt it. I knew I could hold that event. I had no idea it was going to be for like 30 odd people to start with. I just knew that this was where I was supposed to be, and I trusted in that wholeheartedly. And it ended up being the most amazing sound bath I've ever held. I have to say, it was just, woo, it was the energy of it. It was so empowering, and it was so, it was just this deep connection of women that I've never really experienced before, I suppose. And that in itself was just incredible, to hold a space for so many people, to go on a journey within, to be able to shift energy, to move energy, to release, to let go, but also to call in their intentions, call in guidance and messages that they are needing to receive. And it was just honestly so glorious. Like, I struggle to use my voice in sound baths because my mind is like, oh my God, I can't believe you're using your voice. You sound awful. Are you really going to do that? And that's what my mind is like. But it's something I've been working on, and I felt so comfortable around these women. I didn't feel judged. Like, I wore my beautiful kick-ass floaty dress, and it's like this deep sort of orangey red color. And I knew that was the energy that was being given before I'd gone to the event for the sound bath, because I'm very intuitive. I just go with the flow, but I will get like these little snippets of information of where we may be going. And I knew Mary Magdalene was going to be an emphasis as well. And I took her picture with me to create that energy and vibration and frequency that she holds. And I nearly didn't wear my dress, because again, my mind is like, oh, are you really going to do that? Are you really going to show up all fancy pants like that? And then when I asked myself, would I regret it if I didn't? I had such a massive yes. I was like, fuck it, I'm putting it on. But when I walked back into the room, I couldn't look up. I had to look down. I was like, just get to your instruments. And then I could calm down and I took a breath, because Sally was there anyway. And that just eases me anyway. It's just, you have that person that is just like, you're good, you're okay, just breathe. Sally is that for me. And I was just so pleased that I did, because it was like, when you wear something, it holds an energy. The colors that you wear hold an energy. There's frequency and vibrations in absolutely everything. Essentially, everything is sound. Everything is electric. Everything has a frequency. And what you wear, your vibration, your intention, what you think, all of it is a frequency. It is a vibration that you were putting out. And it was everything that I needed to kind of bring it full circle in this sound bath and really emanate the energy that we were diving into that night as well. So yeah, very proud of myself for doing that. And as I was saying, I was using my voice, and I do like a tone in sort of thing. I don't like sing a song. It's very, very go with the flow, intuitive. I have no idea what's going to come out. I'm just surrendering and being like, okay. And it felt like I was channeling it. It didn't feel like me at all. It felt like someone stepped in and just kind of took over my voice. And I was like, hell yeah. Like my mind was like oh my God, this is so awesome. But then at the same time, I'd have a little voice going, you're not really going to go higher. Are you going to do that? Are you really going to do that? Are you going to try that? But then I was just at the same time surrendering. So it's like you can be these two things. You can have these two things. It's whether that fear wins out. And the more that you surrender into it and bring love into it, the easier it is to flow with it. And it was just such a beautiful thing to do. And then I went into light language, and I loved the way that Sarah called it soul language at the end. There was something that just hit me so hard when she said that, because I've always struggled. I don't know if it's because I don't really know much about light language. It's just something that came about one day, and I was like, oh, that just came out. I was like, I don't know what that is. I don't know what that means, but it just felt like it called to me. And that's what I do, is I just go with the flow. I don't need to know what it is. I don't need to know where it comes from. But when she said soul language, I was like, yeah, like that is what it feels like. When I've done it before, people feel like it's calling to their soul, like they know what it means without knowing what it means, because it's frequency, it's vibration, it's remembrance. It knows it deep within your cells. And that brings you a deep peace, and it brings you a deep connection to all that is as well, to consciousness. And I just think that is so cool. So cool. So I just had such a brilliant time in being in my own awesome and honoring my truth, being seen, allowing myself to be seen as one of the scariest things for me. It's always been an issue. And like me and my husband got married abroad, just the two of us, because I was so fearful of people looking at me getting married. Like, what happens if I fuck up the words? What happens if I trip while walking down the thing? Or what happens if everyone's judging me? Because that's a really big one that I have worked on, where I just constantly feel judged by others. And being in this space over the weekend and not feeling that was like, oh, I can't even tell you how powerful that was. Never been somewhere and not felt judged. Not because your mind is what takes over, and it's from your programming. And that is something that I can now say has switched, because I didn't feel judged. I just felt loved, and I just felt held. And that is an incredible space to be in, to have that many women. I'm going to get emotional because I always do, especially if you follow me on Instagram. But I've never experienced that many women coming together and just embracing each other in that way. It's like a sisterhood. It was just so powerful and incredible. And I just feel very, very blessed to have had that opportunity to have experienced that. Oh, I knew I was going to get emotional, because it's like I'm still reflecting and processing and working through what I've been able to experience, and it's been a lot. So there's quite a lot of raw emotion here, and that this is a place where I get to be raw and authentic and just be myself in speaking my truth. And this is what will come up. These tears will flow. And while we're on the subject, this is the reflection. This is what I had and I received from the whole experience this weekend, was just how much I am still working on in the way of expressing myself around others. So I really struggle to kind of let go emotionally around people. I couldn't even do like my loved ones before that. Like, this has been a slow progress. This has been years of practice and trying to figure out, noticing, being the witness of when these things are happening and when I'm holding back. And so at first, I learned how to be raw, open and honest with my husband and just saying things as they were and what I was truly feeling and thinking. Then it went on to, so I have two friends locally that we just seem to cry every time we meet up, and it's just like a right little releasing session. We just get out everything that's been coming up, and it's just so incredible to be able to have those people in my life now, because I've not really experienced that growing up. And again, I had to learn it. I had to teach myself how to do this because I wasn't taught it. So I didn't know how to do that with friends before, which really could have done with learning that while I was ill, because I didn't know how to ask for help when I was really poorly because of this. So I have been working on it, but I've never been around so many people and being like emotionally vulnerable. That is something that I really noticed on the weekend, because there was times when I wanted to cry, like I was feeling all these things coming up, and I did cry. But like, when you want to like proper like ugly cry, like wail almost. There were moments where I kind of wanted to do that, but it got shut down. So I really noticed that. I became the witness of that. And I recognize that this is still a program that I'm undoing from years of being so poorly. Because when I was really poorly, natural people pleaser, of not wanting people to maybe feel sorry for you or to be a burden to people. So those years of pretending that I was okay around people just created this program to then like swallow my screams. Like that's what it felt like. Anytime that I just wanted to scream because I was in so much pain or anguish and just so much grief as well for the person that I used to be and this person that I was now, I would swallow those screams. So I just kept them in, and I would save my tears for the bathroom. I wouldn't cry in front of other people. Not to start with. Over the years, I did more and more, but most of the time they were saved for the bathroom. I go and I would have my like wailing session in the shower, so it would like not be so loud. And I would like hide my anger and my frustrations under laughter and humor, because one, it was a coping mechanism, but also like I couldn't throw a plate. Like my whole body and being would want to throw a plate. I would be so angry. I'd be shaking in anger, but I wouldn't, because most of the time I was either on my own or I was with people, and I was like, I can't throw shit in front of people. And if I'm on my own, I'd have to clean that shit up, which was using more energy that I just didn't have. So I would never actually release it because I didn't know how to then, because it was just all this built up energy that I didn't know what to do with. And I would just laugh things off and make jokes and try and turn it into something that was funny so that I could just kind of move on and change the energy from it, really. And then I found as well, like I would fall into silence. Silence would kind of become me when I would feel any sort of like stabbing pains that would run through my body. Like I would just go within, because it took all my mental strength not to scream. Again, it was a swallowing those screams, and I had to take all my focus inwards to try and breathe through the pain. And it just became a habit then of not telling people that all this stuff was going on internally, all this was in my mind, all these screams, all these tears, all this anger, all this frustration, all this pain was racing through my body. And I'm just sitting there going, yeah, I'm okay. How are you? What have you been up to? And I would switch it to the other person, because if somebody asked me the right question, I knew I would not stop crying if somebody asked me the right question. So I would always turn it back on the others and see what was going on for them. And that's the way I kind of got through things. So you can imagine years of doing that just built up a program, an automatic response, a coping mechanism to be able to get through. And I can see exactly why and how my body came to kind of produce tremors and muscle spasms, because there's no hiding that shit. Like, it is there. And there is like no way of calming them down to be able to then get home to then have them. It was just, they were there. There was no choice in the matter. And that comes because your body is trying to constantly tell you things aren't right. Those screams have information. That pain has information. That anger, that frustration has information. Those tears have information. All the things that you experience in your body is emotional intelligence. It's trying to communicate with you. It is all information, but we don't understand how to decipher it. We don't understand the language of it. So we do all these things like swallowing the screams, saving the tears, sitting in silence, and casing everything with a sprinkle of humor, so that we don't have to deal with it, that we can survive and carry on. But you're surviving. You're not thriving. You're living in this state of fear, constant pain, and everything else, because you don't know how to recognize it. You don't know how to go, okay, there's information behind this fear. There is information behind this pain. So when my body could no longer hide all these things because there was nowhere for anything else to go, my energetic system, my electrical system was fried. It was fucking fried to high heavens. There was nowhere else to store shit. So eventually I had these tremors and these spasms because you can't keep that in. It has to come out. And when it comes out, people see it. So there's no hiding it. When your leg goes and you're at the school, or you're kind of crawling back to your car or back into the house, because of it, because there's no way of regulating it, because it's trying to move energy. And it's like, when you shake, it is a way of releasing trauma. But I didn't know that. So I'm trying everything I can to like kind of keep those tremors in and fighting and fighting. I can't tell you how much I fought against those tremors and those spasms, because I was like, this isn't normal. I shouldn't be experiencing this. There's something so deeply wrong with me. And it isn't. It was just like, my body is at that point now where it's like, you're not listening. These tremors will help you to release the trauma that is being kept within you. It's time to let it go. But I never surrendered into it ever, because I didn't know you were supposed to. And that it was a form of release. So I just kept all that shit locked up tight, and it didn't benefit me in the slightest. And when I started to understand everything that I know now, I'm like, oh my God, this makes so much fucking sense. I wish somebody could have laid it out for me and gone, like, this is because of this. This has obviously happened because of this. And just really have broken it down so I could understand where these symptoms were coming from and how they even came to be in the first place. So I've gone off again, but you know me. So coming back to the weekend and again, recognizing that I'm still doing this, especially around people, because again, there's this fear of being judged. Even though I never felt judged by any of the women there, my fear was that I would then be judged if I like wailed and let all this out. And the words pretend as well, like, I noticed that was like a triggering word for me on the weekend when I went to say, like, oh, I understand where it comes from. It's from all those years of pretending. And I could just feel all this sort of bubbling inside me. It was like a cauldron bubbling away, like, I'm going to get you one day. And it did. Like, I just felt all those emotions. And like, if you think of every scream, every bit of anger, every bit of frustration, everything that I was holding in just got, like I say, like, it was swallowed, it was put back down, it was held under these different things. So it was put under the word of pretend. It was locked away under that word. And today, I've been letting that go. I've been working on that, but there's definitely more that I will be working on this week in really holding that part of myself, calling that part of pretend forwards and asking for what that part of myself needs so I can let that go, so I can finally move on from this because I am not that person anymore. I'm no longer people pleasing. I am no longer pretending that I'm okay when I'm not. I am honest in how I feel now. I say what I feel, what I think, what is coming up. When I feel something in my body, I'm like, something doesn't feel right. When you said that, that made me feel a certain way. I can feel it in my heart, or I can feel it in my stomach. Like, I am very honest and raw in that now, because I have learned what it can do when you don't. And this is like what this podcast is for as well, is to teach you that, you know, what you may be experiencing is probably because you have been pretending. You have been people pleasing. You have been trying to put others before yourself instead of taking time to learn the language of your body, to learn who you are, to learn that there is so much more within you that is trying to come out. And it's almost screaming from within to be heard, but you're still not listening. So taking time to really tune in with yourself, get to know your body, get to know these little aches and pains and things that are coming up. And ask it, where does it come from? You will be so surprised at what comes forwards when you start asking questions, when you start holding space for yourself. And this weekend, from recognizing all this, has been so freeing to live in my truth. Like, that has just been a dream of mine, but it felt so far away when I first was like, yeah, I want to be this spiritual person. And I want to, you know, if I want to wear a floaty dress, I'm going to turn up in a floaty dress. And like, I just thought that would be just like a thought, a visualization, a dream that maybe one day, far, far away, I would get that. And now I'm sitting here being that person. I'm like, oh my God, I'm so fucking awesome. That was so cool. And I embrace it and I love it. And like, to feel as well embraced in my truth by others as well, and my quirkiness and just my own version of awesome, because we all have our own version of awesome, and just being unapologetically me. And like the biggest sort of thing actually for me over the weekend was really interesting in the way that the people didn't know me going there. They just like, oh, that's Katie. That's the one that's doing the sound bath. That's all they knew. They didn't know my story. They didn't know where I have been and where I am now. And this brought such a deeper level of acceptance of my truth and my worth, actually, my worth, because it's something I have been working on like the last few months with a coach, is like my worth. It always comes down to my worth. I think that we all do it in different ways, but, you know, not feeling good enough, that side of things. And no one knew me other than Sally and my story. They didn't know what I'd been through. They didn't know I had this illness. And they got to experience me as me, the me now, the me as this whole person, this awesome person. And they liked me. Do you know? That was really powerful to feel, because I've never had that really. I was always the runner before I got ill. So everybody knew me for my achievements. And then I was the girl who got ill, who then went from that, survived that, and now changed her life around to who she is now. But nobody got to know me as this person. So to go there and just be me, the sound healer, like that was so cool to know that, again, it's that I am enough, that I am good enough, and to feel that and be embraced by that. And it was just such a sort of like powerful experience to be held and seen for myself, as myself, and not because of what I have overcome, and not because it's a great story that I have of where I was to where I am now, but because I was just being me. And that is fucking awesome. So I encourage you to just be you and to embrace every part of yourself, every part of your awesome. And any part that you feel is blocking your path, call it forwards. Ask it what it needs from you. Meditate on it. Maybe go for a walk and keep it in your mind. Set an intention that you would like to reveal more about whatever it is that you feel is holding you back. Call it in. Sit with it. Be with it. You're not going to learn its language. You're not going to learn who you are unless you have a conversation with yourself, unless you communicate with yourself, communicate with your mind, your body, and your spirit, because then your soul truth will come forwards. Your soul's voice will be heard from within. And that is a powerful fucking place to be. And just to close this podcast, I want to say a massive thank you to Sarah, who allowed me to come into her space, into her retreat, to hold that sound bath. I just feel so grateful to have met her, to also her energy. Like, I don't know what it is, but it's just like gives off this like powerful, like wise and so deeply healing energy. I just love it. I love it. And also, thank you to all the other ladies that held workshops at the retreat. It was so good. And I needed it. I needed to hear a lot of confirmation on things that I have researched myself, but it's nice to hear it from someone else and confirm what I was thinking and what I've kind of been saying. And that's just so beautiful to receive that. And then to all the ladies that came and just allow me to be myself and to hold me in that space. So I'm just eternally grateful to all of these incredible women. And you know that I believe everything happens for a reason and everything aligns and falls into place when it is needed at the right time. And I just really felt that this weekend. So feeling a lot of gratitude, a lot of peace, and yet more awareness about myself, my mind, my body, and my spirit, which is always a great place to be. So thank you, as always, for joining me, and I will see you again soon. Thank you for listening to this episode. I hope you have enjoyed it as much as I have. And if you have, then please share on your social media. And if you'd like to share your thoughts with me directly, you can message me at Absolute Alchemy UK on Instagram. And if you haven't done so already, hit the follow button to follow the podcast for more awesomeness. And maybe I'll see you here next time.